Hi everybody and welcome to another predictions video with yours truly. My name is Coops. So today I want to actually do my prediction so far on what I think is going to be coming next, just educated guesses more than anything. But if this does happen, it will be pretty damn cool. So first of all, I want to draw your attention to the new doorway that has appeared in the aerodrome in Lion's Arch. This suggests that we are going to be getting a new raid wing. But wait a second, if we think about this, logically that is, the raid within Heart of Thorns, you know, the whole Veil Guardian, the story there is kind of wrapped up. It kind of led us to the whole Lazarus the Dyer being resurrected thing. So it's kind of pointless to carry on with that story arc, right? Well, if we look into the current situation within the living story, Rytlock has been taken back to the Black Citadel to make a report on where he went and to explain his new powers. Now, if you watched a previous predictions video on my channel, I did come to this little gate here with the little girl who basically says that she saw a char kind of phase through this wooden gate thing, and she couldn't hear his footsteps or anything. He was just sort of like this ghostly apparition thing, and then before she knew it, he just disappeared into thin air. And I did say in that video that I'm pretty much 100% sure that that was Rytlock returning from the underworld. As we saw in one of the previous living stories, he jumped into this sort of portal thing after his sword to try and get rid of the ghosts of Ascalon forever, and I truly believe that he wound up in the underworld. It certainly would explain his mystic powers of being able to channel the dead. Now, once again, just referencing back to my previous video, I did say that that gate is almost like a direct route to the location of in Guild Wars 1, where the entrance to the underworld was, where we could actually enter the underworld, or one of the entrances to the underworld, which is pretty much right on top of Glint's Lair, maybe just a little bit further north of Glint's Lair. So I truly and honestly believe that Rytlock will go back to the Black Citadel. He will explain to them, maybe not willingly, but he will eventually explain to the higher-ups in the Black Citadel that he wound up in the underworld and gained this new power, the Revenant's power, from the underworld. The Char being the Char, of course they would want to go and explore this sort of area and find out what really happened. I'm sure Rytlock will be very vague on what actually happened, but he will tell them that it was the underworld. So they will go down there, and that will be our new raid wing. It will all open up and we'll be able to enter into the underworld, which is very exciting. I may be wrong, I may be right, who knows? So now I want to move on to the Elder Dragons. A lot's unfolding recently. You know, we've got Primordus, who is confirmed as active. Jormag is now confirmed as active. But what of Kralkatorrik? This one Elder Dragon that we were all so certain was going to be the next Elder Dragon, and now everyone's left scratching their head thinking, will Glenn be the one who gets Luciled? But then we get the curveball of Glint's egg hatching, giving us Aurene, who has a direct link to us, the player. How long will it be before the dragon starts to communicate with us, either in speech or telepathically? Now, whether ArenaNet are doing this on purpose or not, they are kind of shying away from Kralkatorrik. But if I am correct about this new raid wing being the underworld, it kind of opens up the story arc that leads us to the Crystal Desert. So we may still yet fight Kralkatorrik as the next dragon in the next expansion. As ArenaNet say, it's still on the table. But now I want to move on to something that I feel is kind of more important to the story at the moment than the Elder Dragons. If you think back to Season 1 where it was with Scarlet Briar, we may well see a pattern here. Because if we're honest, there wasn't really much talk about which dragon it was going to be during that season. It was all about Scarlet Briar coming in and wrecking the joint and just being a total bitch. And she was the main problem that we were dealing with. Now, we have Lazarus the Dyer. I truly believe that this guy is going to be the next Scarlet Briar. So it's all going to be about him, what his plans are, what he's doing, and the dragons are kind of just going to take a back seat until we actually find out what Lazarus was planning. Whether we kill him or not, I don't know. I'm pretty sure we're not going to kill him. I think he's going to actually go ahead with his plan, but it will lead us into the next expansion where Lazarus the Dyer will still be alive. So here is my prediction for Lazarus the Dyer. This is a pretty long subject to cover, so bear with me, but it is all interesting. So I was going to wait until you were older before we had this talk, but unfortunately circumstances have left me no choice but to have the talk about where magical babies come from. So let's talk about the Bloodstone and the lore behind it. So we know one exploded and Lazarus absorbed the energy. Did he do that to save Tyria from certain destruction, or was it merely a foolproof way to gain a shed load of power? Well, I guess time will tell on that one. Here's what you should know about the Bloodstone. The Bloodstone was created by the Seers before the gods came to Tyria. It was designed to store the uncorrupted magic that was left behind after the previous rising of the Elder Dragons. Shortly thereafter, the gods arrived on Tyria and established a Ra, and gathered up some nifty artifacts to decorate the place. One of these artifacts was the Bloodstone. And skip ahead. One day Abaddon was kind enough to use the Bloodstone's power to give the races of Tyria magical powers, essentially turning every race in Tyria into an Elder Dragon. As you can imagine, this power was ripping the world apart and causing some pretty epic guild wars. There was one king called Doric who didn't like this very much and asked the gods to end the bloodshed. Therefore, the gods sealed the Bloodstone and split it into 5 pieces, thus limiting the race's powers to a single profession as we know it today, and thus never having access to all the magic again. After that, the gods put the fragments of the Bloodstone into the largest volcano on the Ring of Fire Island. There it would be safe from being tampered with. Unfortunately, the volcano had a little bit of a wet dream and sent the Bloodstone shards flying across the face of Tyria. We currently know the location of 3 of these shards. One landed back inside the volcano on the Ring of Fire Island. One landed in Bloodstone Fen, which presumably was called the Fen before the Bloodstone landed in it, otherwise that would be an amazing coincidence. The third landed in the Shiver Peak Mountains and found its way inside a cave, because I mean, why wouldn't it? So there you have it. The Messiah used the Bloodstone in the Fen to gather souls to power their gates on the Ring of Fire to prevent the Titans from escaping. Which is also, coincidentally, where Lazarus died and was trapped inside. And that is the very same Bloodstone that went kablamo. Now this seems a little perverse to me that the Bloodstone absorbed Lazarus' spirit after he died, and then Lazarus came back and got his revenge by absorbing the Bloodstone. Kinda like a small fish being eaten by a big fish and then being pooped out whole so the little fish could then eat the big fish in one bite. 'Cause that makes sense in the scientific world, right? So now Lazarus has taken an interest in destroying the Elder Dragons, but leaning more towards that pesky Primordus. I'm pretty sure you can see where I'm going with this, but just in case, I have to wonder, is Lazarus going after the other Bloodstones? See, it turns out that Primordus is now lying on top of one of them. And as much as Lazarus believes he's a god, I think deep down he knows that against Primordus, he's nothing more than a pissworm. But, luckily for Lazarus, there is a certain guild called Dragon's Watch that are working towards killing said Elder Dragon. Well, I mean, they already killed 2 of the Elder Dragons, so it makes sense for him to lend his help to them and play along, because, let's be fair, he is telling the truth about wanting to destroy the Elder Dragons. If only for his long-term goal of absorbing the power of all 5 Bloodstone shards, but why would he do that? Why wouldn't he just find the Keystone and the 4 other pieces and put them back together and then absorb it all in one go? Well, because 1, That's way too much effort. And 2, because if he did that, all the races of Tyria would get a serious power boost and would be a potential threat to him and his plan. So instead, he will systematically collect each piece in turn and absorb its power, thus becoming stronger and stronger. And guess what? We won't be able to do a goddamn thing about it, because the more power he absorbs, the stronger he becomes. On the flip side, the more Bloodstone shards that are destroyed, the weaker our powers become, because, if you remember, the Bloodstones are where our powers come from. Pretty devious, Lazarus, if that's your real name. With all this power, he actually would, by definition, be a god. All the races of Tyria would be nothing more than powerless mortals bowing down to our new god, Lazarus. So you may be wondering why Lazarus doesn't just go for the Bloodstone cave shard. Well, it appears that the entrance of the cave has long since been buried and would require some pretty heavy excavation to get in. Naturally, with so many white mantles at his disposal, he could ask them to start digging, but that's going to take some serious time. And let's not forget that the white mantle is currently split between Lazarus and Caudicus. So it seems logical for him to team up with the Dragon's Watch and let them do all the hard work of destroying Primordus. And while they are distracted, he can send his followers into the Straits of Devastation to dig up the cave piece. But what of Caudicus? Well, his intention is pretty simple. He wants to take over the throne of Divinity's Reach by any means necessary. It may mean the death of Queen Jenna, but I seriously doubt that Caudicus will survive long enough to see the next expansion. I'm pretty sure Canuck will finish him off for his freedom. So there you go. At this point, I know it's pretty much pointing to my prediction being that Primordus will be the next Elder Dragon that we are going to face. But I'm still not convinced that Primordus is the next Elder Dragon we're going to face. I'm still kind of leaning towards Kralkatorrik, just purely because he's the one that ArenaNet are not mentioning. They are steering well clear of him. And I know from past experience that ArenaNet like to throw in a WTF moment where we all go, motherfuckers say, what? But we shall see what comes of this. Thank you anyway guys for watching. I really do appreciate all your views and your time spent listening to me talk about absolute drivel. Please do feel free to subscribe to my channel. I upload quite frequently, and let me know if you want me to cover anything in particular, either in-game or in a private message on the back end of my channel or in the comments below. I'm happy to cover pretty much anything that you want me to cover. Otherwise, I'll just continue covering the crap that I like to cover. Please give this video a thumbs up and share it with all your friends and family. And I will catch you in the next video.